Okay, today we're going to do Daf Mem Zayin with base. Daf Mem Zayin with base. We're speaking about the idea of hoil. Hoil means that if you have a certain situation, that you have an object which is at a certain status. For example, on Yom Tov, you have a pot of soup which you cooked on a huge scale, and you cooked it just before the end of Yom Tov. So there's no chance of you eating the whole soup by yourself on Yom Tov. So there's an argument whether we say hoil. Hoil means if. So arguing whether we use the concept of if you would invite all your guests, all your neighbors to eat the soup, then the soup would be able to be eaten by the neighbors. And therefore, your soup would now be mutter to eat because it will be able to be eaten on Yom Tov. That's one opinion. Another opinion is we don't say if, because right now the soup is not able to be eaten by you. So we don't, if you invite all your neighbors, so good. If you don't invite your neighbors, so then what's the basis to say hoil? What's the basis to say theoretically, if you would be able to do something, then it works. That's the argument. So basically, the argument is whether we use theoretical theories in practicality or not. So we're holding Daf Mem Zayin Amid base all the way at the top. We finished off yesterday with last time we learned, we finished off with Rav Chisda brought down a brisa that said, and we brought down a mission that said that a person could plow a field with one plowing, and it could be over on 8 lav. How can you do that? So we said someone who plows with a sheren achamer, meaning he plows together with a donkey and an ox, which is kilayim, which is us to do that. That's one issur. And so too if they were mukdashin, if they were holy, so that's another issur. And so too if the thing you planted was kilayim, you planted grapes and other plants, which is kilayim, it's a third issur. All the way at the top now with Zion and base. Shvius, and when you planted it wasn't Shvius, it was on Shemitah, so that's a fourth issur. And another issur is that if it was on Yom Tov, so that's another issur. And he was a Kohen and a Nazir, and he plowed inside the base Sakvaris, which makes him Tumah. So he's over aside for being a Kohen, aside for being a Nazir. So that's a case you could be over on 8 isurim with one action. So now the Gemara is going to ask from that thing. It's starting on Mem Zayin with base Umi Vi Amninan. Vi Amninan is the second line. It says the Gemara Vi Amninan Hoyel. If Chisda is asking if we say the idea of Hoyel, if we say the idea that theoretically if something would happen, then it'll be okay. So therefore it's now also okay. So if we'll say this concept, why is he chayiv for plowing on Yom Tov? We said one of the sunim is that he's chayiv for plowing on Yom Tov. Just say hoil v'chazin l'kisri dam tzipor. Why can we say that he could use the earth of plowing for kisri adam? He could use the earth of plowing for covering the blood of a bird. The thing is, there's a thing called kisri adam. When you shacht birds, you have to cover the blood. When shachting is mutar on Yom Tov, so you could use the earth that you plow the Yom Tov for covering the blood, and therefore your action of plowing was in essential mutter on Yom Tov because you're using the item, you're using the offer, you're using the earth to cover the blood. Okay, there's a whole discussion we're going to see soon. Tosfos and other Shem asked the obvious question on Rashi: how's it mutter to plow in order to cover the blood? Even though shechting is mutter Yom Tov and covering the blood is mutter Yom Tov, but it's not mutter to plow in order to cover the blood. That's a different discussion. We'll get there. The idea is that if we say the idea of her, if you say the idea of if, even though right now you're not plowing in order to cover this, you use the earth to cover the blood. Right now you're plowing in order because you want to plant trees or something. But since theoretically you could use the earth to cover the blood, so you are plowing for a certain action which is mutar Yom Tov, and therefore it won't be us. From the fact that the Mishnah says that you are over for plowing, is mashma that we don't say the concept of if. So answer Rav Papa, I'm Rav Papa Bashmuel. Don't bring a proof in that Mishnah. Why? Because I could just say that the Mishnah is talking about a case ba'avonim mukruzolis. Speaking about the case that the earth of that field was very sharp stones. Since they were very sharp stones, so they're not for kisei adam. Kisei adam must be done with earth or with dust, but it can't be done with stones. Therefore, we can't say hoil. Even if we would say hoil, in that case it won't work because the hoil would mean to cover it with sharp stones, you can't do that. Ask the Gemara, if it's sharp stones, why don't you just take the stones and grind them? And if you grind them, then you can use them, they become earth. Once they become earth, you can use them for Kisei Adam. Ask the Gemara the obvious question, you're telling me that it's mutter to grind something on Yom Tov? How can you grind stones on Yom Tov? Answers the Gemara, because you could grind stones on Yom Tov. The Oya is the Keshtan Klachayad. You could grind them Klachayad with a Shina. If you grind them with a Shina, there's no Malacha Deiraisa. Because they're Deiraisa, you only Chayiv if you do something the way it's usually done. But if you do it with a Shina, you're not Chayiv Deiraisa. And therefore, I could say the Svarav Hayel, even though it's a very Dechadika answer, because how can we tell someone to be over Issa Dabbanun or Asa the Shino to say the idea of Hayel? As the Gemara says that since at the end of the day you could grind them with a Shino, so even though it's very sharp stones, so why don't you grind them? And the fact that the Mishnah, so now we're going back to the question, the fact that you're able to grind them, meaning we could say Hayel that you grind them, Hayel that you use the stones for Kisei Adam, and if you use the stones Kisei Adam, it'll be mutter to grind, it'll be mutter to plow on Yom Tov, and therefore, why would the Mishnah say Yechai for plowing? So answers the Gemara, the Mishnah is talking about the Tzunma, talking about very hard earth, and this type of earth you cannot grind, and therefore it can never become dust, it can never become afar. Since it can never become afar, then you can never use it for Kisei Adam. So even if you would grind them, it's a type of earth which you're not able to grind. Ask the Gemara, so if we're talking about a type of earth that you're not able to grind, Tzunma bar zriya, if you're talking about an earth which is so hard, even if you're going to grind it, it's never going to become earth. So how can you plant there? Such an earth, Begashmias, isn't able to plant trees either there. So back to square one, why would the Mishnah say Chai for planting if physically you're not able to plant in such a plot of land? Answers the Gemara, no. We're speaking about Tzunma Maila, we're speaking about this type of field that has two layers of earth. It has hard earth, which is called Tzunma on the first layer, and under the Tzunma, under that you have soft earth. Since under that you have soft earth, you could, when you're planting, so you're planting, even though the first layer is hard earth, which is not right to plant, you can't plant there. But since under there you have soft earth, so when you're plowing one layer, making a hole in the first layer, and also that eventually makes a hole in the second layer, which is soft earth, and then you could use it to plant trees. Since you're able to use it to plant trees, since you can use it to plant trees, you're chayiv for planting. But at the plowing that you're doing in Yom Tov, you can't say, so even though I'm plowing it, I could use it for plant trees, but I can't say to you, I'm going to use the earth for Kisei Adam, because the first layer that I'm plowing is hard earth, which is not right to be used for Kisei Adam. Ask the Gemara typically, okay, so even though the first layer they're using you cannot use for Kisei Adam, but the second layer is right to be used for Kisei Adam. So even though I'm plowing right now the first layer, which is hard earth, which cannot be used for Kisei Adam, but under that is soft earth, which could be used for Kisei Adam. So we're back to the question, if the earth could be used for Kisei Adam, so why do we say the idea of Hayel? Hayel means that since theoretically it would be able to be used for Kisei Adam, so therefore I wouldn't be chayav on Shabbos, on Yom Tov. Answers the Gemara, Ella Amar Mar Bar Rav Ashi answers, he says we're talking about betina, we're talking about with clay or with cement. And we're speaking about a field that's made of clay, of cement. Since it's made of cement, it's never going to be right to make it into the earth. You can never crush cement to make it into earth, or clay to make it into earth. It's a very sticky material. Since it's a very sticky material, can never be right for Kisei Adam. Ask the Gemara the obvious question: Betina bar ziyahu. You're telling me that a person could plant inside a field which is clay? You can't plant in clay. Clay doesn't make things grow. Answers the Gemara, Bemesunta. We're not speaking about clay. We're speaking about very, very wet earth. So the earth is very, very wet, and therefore, since it's a very sticky type of earth, and it's still right, it's not clay, it's earth, so therefore it's able to make things grow. But together with that, since it's very sticky, so if you're going to grind it, it can never become into dust or earth, and therefore it can never be fit for Kisei Adam. So on the one hand, you're planting on Shabbos, on Yom Tov. Since you're planting on Yom Tov, you're chayav for planting on Yom Tov. On the other hand, they can never say that your planting isn't a action which is usher, because the only way to say it'll be action, it's action which is mutter, is if it's kisei adam, if I'm able to use the earth for kisei adam. But this type of earth over here is impossible to be used for kisei adam because it's very sticky. Since it's very sticky, it can never become earth, and that's why you're chayiv for planting a Yom Tov. So that's we finished with that question, that we can't bring a proof from that Mishnah because that Mishnah is speaking about very sticky earth. Another question on the concept of Hoil. Eisvei Abaya. Abaya asked from this brisa. Yeah, again, Rav is the one, Dabo was the one who said Hoil, is that we do say that the idea of Hoil. And Chistr asked a question from a Mishnah, now we pushed him off. Now Abaya is going to ask a question from a brisa. It says in a brisa like this: someone who cooks the gid anashe in the animal, there's a certain vein, meaning a certain part of the animal, which is called the gid anashe. The gid anashe is also to eat. It's a issa deiraisa, comes from the story of Yaakov and the Malach, but it's issa to eat, issa to cook. So issa to eat and cook. So the brisa says if you cook a gid anashe b'chalaf, you cook a gid anashe in milk. So besides the fact that you cooked the gid anashe, we're going to see soon, you also cooked it in. Besides the fact that it's also to eating the nasha, you cooked it in milk, and the nasha is meat. So you mixed milk and meat together. Not only that, you did it on Yom Tif. So now va'ichle, and then you ate it. So how many malchus do you get? Like a chamish, you get five sets of malchus. Meaning you get 5 times 40 malchus. Why? Number one, leike mishum avashal gid b'Yom Tif. Number one, you leike the first time you get 40 malchus for cooking the gid anashe on Yom Tif. Why are you cooking? Why can't you cook the gid anashe on Yom Tif? Because you can only cook on Yom Tif things which are mutter to eat. This is not mutter to eat. It's not eichel nefesh, and therefore you cannot. You're over for cooking the gid anashe on Yom Tif. So that's the first set of malchus. Second set of malchus is v'leike mishum eichel gid. You also leike. You get malchus for eating the gid anashe, which is another set of malchus. That's the second issue. Another set of malchus is v'leike mishum mevashal basar v'chal. Another set of malchus you get for cooking milk and meat together, since you cook the gid anashe milk. And another set of malchus v'leike mishum eichel basar v'chal. You also you get malchus for eating basar and challah, right? Because the isa basar v'chal is not only to eat it, to cook it, it's also to eat it. So since now you cooked your basar v'chal, you cooked your gid anashe milk, and now you're eating it, that's two different. It's one of eating, one of cooking. And the last thing you're over for v'leike mishum havara, you get malchus for havara, for lighting a fire on Shabbos. There's two isurim. One is lighting a fire, and there's another issue of cooking. So since before we said that you cooked on Yom Tif, which is malchus, now we're saying there's another issue of making a fire on Yom Tif, since you made a fire on Yom Tif for not a reasonable purpose, because you cannot use the fire in this case. So therefore you're over on havara. Now Abai asks Abai, if we say the idea of Hoyel, if we say that the idea that theoretically if I'll be able to do something, it'll be mutter, so now it's also mutter. Why am I chayiv for lighting a fire in Yom Tov? This fire, even though I lit a fire in general right now for not a permissible purpose, but since after I cook my gid anashe, I could cook my Shabbos, my Yom Tov meal on the fire. So the fire that I made, essentially, even though right now it's an asadika fire, but the fire hoyel, if I say theoretically, this fire isn't a asadika fire, because if I would cook kosher things on the fire, then it'll be mutter. So why am I chayiv for lighting fire? Regarding eating milk and meat, I can't say the idea of hoyel, because there isn't a theoretical way milk and meat is mutter. But by lighting the fire, there is a theoretical way that lighting the fire is mutter. For example, cooking kosher things in it, and therefore I could say that he shouldn't be chayiv for lighting the fire, even though he lit the fire for a not permissible purpose. But theoretically, it could have been a permissible purpose. So that is alright. We don't say that theoretical is going to make you potter from malchus. That's Abaya's question on Rabbi. Amar lei, so Rabbi answered to Abaya, apik havara. You know what? Take out havara from the brisa. The brisa didn't mean to say that you get malchus for havara, because if you say hoyel, you don't get malchus for havara. You don't get malchus for making a fire. So take out the brisa havara, take out the brisa lighting a fire, and stick in instead the fifth malchus that you get is not for lighting a fire. It's because the gid anashe that you cooked in the case of the brisa is a gid anashe of a nevela, right? There's two isurim. There's an isur of eating gid anashe And there's an extra issue if I'm going to eat a gedanasha of a nevela is usher because it's a nevela. I can only eat animal which is shechted. And if you ate an animal which is not shechted, so that's an issa nevela. So that's extra issa. Not only eating gedanasha, but you're also eating gedanasha which comes from a nevela. Says, ask Abai on the Gemara, how can you minus on Rabbi? How can you minus from the Brisa and say that we didn't mean to say that Havara is also? We meant to say that it was Gidan Nasha from an Avela. But Atani Reb Chia said clearly, Loikeshtaim alachila. So you get 2 malchus for eating, meaning, like you said before, for eating the Gidan Nasha and also for eating milk meat. The Shalish Abishule, and he specified that you get malchus 3 sets of malchus for the cooking, meaning we specified before we told us why you get malchus for each time. Or Priya makes it more general. So you get 2 malchus for eating because you ate gedanasha and you also ate milk and meat, and you get 3 malchus for cooking. Why? Because you, like we said in the Brisa before, you lit a fire on Yom Tif, you're cooking on Yom Tif, and also you're cooking milk and meat together. So the question is, if what you're saying is true, that to minus havara, minus the issur of cooking, the minus the issur of lighting a fire in Yom Tif, and put in gedanasha nevela. Why does the Brisa say? Why does the Bechia say that you get only 2 malchus for eating for the eating aspect? Meaning because you ate gedanasha and you also ate milk and meat, you shouldn't say you get twice malchus. You should say you get 3 times malchus for eating. Why? Because you get malchus for eating gedanasha, you get malchus for eating milk and meat, and you also get malchus for eating a nevela. From the fact that Bechia did not specify and said you get 3 malchus for eating is mashma that he holds that you don't get 3 malchus for eating, you only get 2 malchus for eating. Why do you get 2 malchus for eating? Because the last malchus that you get is not for eating, but it's for cooking. It's for the issur of lighting a fire on Shabbos. And therefore, how can you answer me that the Brisa means to say that lighting a fire on Yom Tov we mutter because we say hoyel? And Bechia says specifically that it's not mutter because we don't say hoyel. Answers the Gemara el apik havara v'ayo ba'atzim muksa. Says the Gemara, take out from the Brisa havara, because that what we said before havara is mutter. V'ayo atzim muksa, and say that the issur he did over here was he cooked with wood of muksa, meaning he lit a fire with wood which is muksa. They weren't prepared to be lit on Erev Yom Tif, and therefore that muksa, and that's the issur. Instead of saying you get malchus for lighting fire in Yom Tif, that is not correct according to Rabbi, because lighting a fire in Yom Tov will be mutter, even if you lit it for a asadika case, because I could say theoretically it will be mutter. So why are you 5 malchus not for lighting a fire, but for issur of muksa? Ask the Gemara, muksa de'iraisa, who you telling me muksa is issur de'iraisa? We know that muksa is a issur d'rabbanan, or even if it's issur d'rabbanan, you don't get malchus for it. So Rabbi answers, yes, muksa is issur de'iraisa. Because it says on the pasuk v'haya b'yem hashishi, it says on the 6th day, on Friday, regarding the man, it says that the Jewish nation, Moshe Rabbeinu told the Jewish nation that on Friday they should gather the man for Shabbos. Why? Because since the man that fell on the Shabbos would have been muksa, because you had no access to it on Erev Shabbos, so you have to take double portion on Shabbos. How do we know that you get it's also, and therefore you get malchus? Because it says in the pasuk, don't do any malacha, since the Torah says that you can't do any malacha, which included inside malacha is preparing from this of muksa, like we said before, that this of man. So that's why you get malchus for man, and that's for muksa, and that's why the case of the Brisa is speaking about that he warmed up his oven with wood from muksa that he didn't have on Erev Shabbos, as opposed to if he would heat up lighting the fire isn't counted as issur, because we say the idea of hoy. Amar le, so Abaya asked Rabbi back. Rabbi just said that this was muksa de'iraisa. Abaya told him, "Atud amna, you yourself said that boy my name with Abchista, that you asked Abchista. But Amni law, and some people say that boy my name with Avuna, the asked Avuna. And what was the question you asked him? Hevil Sam me'afar. If you bring regarding on Yom Tif, if the person is in charge of bringing the carbon tamid in the Beis Hamikdash, he brought a Sam me'afar. He brought a sheep from Afar, meaning from somewhere outside of Yerushalayim, meaning a village outside the Yishuv, ushchate, and then you shechted it. Why did you shecht it tamid for Ushchati Tam, you shachted for Karban Tam on Yom Tiv. Mao, what is the din? Can you bring the meat on Mizbeach? Or do we say that since the meat is muksa? Why is it muksa? Because Erev Shabbos it wasn't accessible. Every Yom Tiv it wasn't accessible to you because it was outside of it was outside the Yishuv, it was outside of where you are, it was very far away. So therefore, if you prepared on Erev Shabbos, fine. If you didn't prepare on Erev Shabbos, you brought it on Yom Tov from outside. So therefore, maybe it's not muksem, that's muksa, you can't bring it on Mizbeach. So what's the din? That Amarlon and Rabbi, you told us that he answered you, Amar Li'allah, that if Fista answered you, he answered you like this. That says in the pasuk regarding bringing, it says in Yecheskel, regarding bringing the karbanos, it says v'seh achas min atzayin min hamasayim mimashki yisrael. It says that you should bring one sheep from the one animal from the sheep, from the 200, from the liquid. What does that mean? So each word of this pasuk is going to be used to teach us something. The Gemara says seh. The fact that it says seh, you should bring one sheep, v'lo yahabachei, and not a bechei, and because a bechei could be brought from another carbon, as opposed to a sheep, which is only bought a carbon time, which is only bought from a sheep. Achas, it says se achas, one sheep, maisa, and not a behemoth that's made from maisa. Why? Because maisa behemoth cannot be brought on mizbeh. It cannot be brought for any other carbon. It has to be brought from maisa. So se achas is speaking about bring a sheep or carbon time. Minat saying from the sheep. Palgos is to exclude a palgos. A palgos is an animal. Never reached, they never reached, which is still too young. Since it's still too young, you cannot be brought on the mizbeach. Min hamasayim from the 200. What does it mean? That regarding the wine you bring in the mizbeach, mi meisa shtei meis shenishtayru babei mikan la'arla shebtela be'masayim. It teaches us a din from the 200. Why does the 200 regarding the wine? It teaches us that arla's bottle in 200, meaning if you have arla, a jar of arla that got mixed in to 200 jars of regular wine, so that jar will now be bottled in the wine. Mimashki Yisrael, from the liquid of the Jewish nation. Means it has to be mutter for Yisrael. So this is the gist. We can't we don't bring the wine from Tab. So we're going to see soon. The next we're going to stop over here in the Masechta and Aleph, but the Gemara is going to see soon that we do not bring that the Isra of Muksa, according to this Bryce, the Isra of Muksa is not Deiraisa, it will be only with Rabbanan, and therefore you could bring a sheep from Muksa. So if you could bring a sheep from Muksa, why regarding Yom Tov do we say that Muksa is Deiraisa and therefore you get Malchus from it? So that's a contradiction to Rabba's own Shitta. Okay, we'll stop over here, the bottom of the top of Masechta and Aleph. Continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem, Masechta and Aleph. Going on to Masechta and Beis. Have a good night.
Good night, Shkach.
Sure.